or should we just start right at noon?
Wait, let me see. It usually, I think it's going live.
Is anyone logged on already? We're just giving it a few minutes to let people tune in, so we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. For those who are just joining us, we're just giving folks a couple of more minutes to tune in. We'll get started in just a minute. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started since we're past noon now. Thanks for everyone who's joining us today and watching this after. I just want to start before we jump into the program today, just by acknowledging everything that's been happening in our city and around the country. You know, all of our hearts are with the people who are protesting, and you know, we stand in solidarity with people who are pushing back against police violence and white supremacy. We thought about whether to go forward with this program today, but we thought it was really important to make sure that young people and people in our city have the information they need to access the resources they need at this time. Today's program is going to be focused specifically on financial resources, but I also want to note, in light of everything that's going on, that community legal services also helps young people and all people with criminal records related issues. So if anybody has been involved in protests and has been arrested or given a citation, and you're looking for information about your rights, or you're trying to clear up your record, definitely please reach out to us about those issues as well. And we'll be posting more information about that soon on our social media and website. So stay tuned for that. But today's presentation is really going to focus on how to get financial resources during this crisis. And I'm joined today by some wonderful colleagues. We have Tracy Johnson, an attorney in our Employment Unit and Youth Justice Project, Liz Sultan, who's an attorney with our Medical Legal Partnership, and Bridget Biddle, who's a social worker with the Youth Justice Project, as well as myself. My name is Jamie Gull, and I'm a supervising attorney with the Employment Unit and the Youth Justice Project. So let me just give you a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today, and then we'll jump in. So the different sources of income we're going to talk about are stimulus checks, unemployment compensation, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, the Emergency Cash Assistance Program, the Diversion Program, and then traditional benefits programs. And all of those programs have really long, complicated names and acronyms and slightly different eligibility criteria. The processes and systems for trying to access these benefits can be really complicated. So we're going to try to break that down and just quickly run through what these programs are and what makes you eligible. Then we'll also let you know how you can connect to these programs and benefits, as well as if you run into trouble connecting with them, if you're having issues, how you can connect to our services here at Community Legal Services. And then we'll spend a lot of time answering any questions that you have. So we'll get started jumping into our first source of income, which is the stimulus. So in a lot of ways, I think the stimulus is the program that people have heard the most about because it's been all over the news. But there are specific rules that especially apply to young people in terms of whether you're eligible for your own check. A lot of young people do qualify for their own stimulus check. And for young people who are 17 or older, their parents and caregivers cannot get the extra $500 per child for them. So our goal is that young people are able to get their own payments if possible. So if young people are eligible for their own payments, that means that they can get $1,200 plus $500 for any child they have under 17 years old, not counting any babies who were born in 2020, unfortunately. But other children who live with the person in their home, they can get an extra $500 per child. In order for young people to qualify for their own payment, though, they can't have been claimed as a dependent on somebody else's taxes. So what that means is that it doesn't matter if you were or were not actually claimed, but if you could have been claimed as a dependent, you cannot get your own payment. So just to break down what that means, if you're 17 or 18 years old and you lived apart from your parent or caregiver for more than half the year or earned more than half of your own income, then you can still qualify for your own payment. And if you're 19 to 24 years old, unless you're a full-time student who's receiving the majority of your support from a parent or caregiver and living at home for more than half the year, then you generally will qualify for your own payment. So generally 19 to 24-year-olds do qualify unless they're a full-time student living at home. For 17 and 18-year-olds, it can be a little bit more complicated. But again, if you're earning more than half your own income or living more than half the year away, you can qualify. One note I'll just throw out there that we've gotten some good questions about, if somebody's been, say, in a delinquency placement, does that count as having lived apart from the family? In most situations, that's not going to count. That's something that's called a temporary absence. And the theory is you are returning to a household. So, everybody's situation can be a little bit different, but generally that would not count as living away for more than half the year. So now that we've kind of covered the basics of what makes a young person eligible for stimulus, we'll talk a little bit about how you actually get it if you haven't already. So a lot of people have already gotten their stimulus if they filed taxes in 2018 or 2019. The process should be automatic for getting it. If you did file taxes in 2018 or 2019 and you have not received your stimulus yet, there's a link up here for the IRS website where you can check the Get My Payment link and see what the status of your payment is. I will say that we've heard from folks that they've checked that link and there's not information available, or it seems like there might be a holdup with their case. It doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with your case if you're not seeing the information there, and hopefully you still will be getting that payment in the mail. If you did not file taxes in 2018 or 2019, then there are a couple of options. If you actually had some income in 2019, even if it wasn't very much income, we recommend that you do file taxes, and you can do that by July 15th. So that deadline's coming up pretty soon, so make sure to get those taxes in. The reason we encourage people, even with a small amount of income, to apply is that you might actually be eligible for other things like the earned income tax credit that could get you more money back too, in addition to the stimulus. So if you had some kind of employment income in 2019, the best thing you can do is file your taxes by July 15th. And there are 2 links up here on the screen for organizations that can help folks file for free if they need assistance. If you had no income or only got public benefits in 2019, then there's a form on the IRS website that's up here on the slide where you can fill out the form for non-filers. The deadline has passed to be able to put in bank account information in order to get direct deposit on the form, but you can still go fill out this non-filer form and receive a check in the mail. And the last thing we wanted to note about the stimulus is that if you're concerned that somebody might wrongfully claim you as a dependent on their taxes, you can protect against that by getting a special identity protection PIN number. And again, we've put the link for where you can apply for one of those up here on the screen. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of youth eligibility and how you can get your stimulus money. And we'll be taking questions on all of this at the end, but feel free to put questions in as we go if you have questions about that. And with that, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Tracy Johnson.
Sorry, I was muted. Can everyone hear me? Thank you. So hi, I'm Tracy, and I'm here to talk to you about unemployment compensation. Now, the traditional unemployment compensation program will generally be the right fit for youth who were W-2 workers and had a significant work history prior to becoming unemployed. And so going through regular UC would be the proper protocol for young people who, again, are W-2 wages. And we want to note that the system has been overwhelmed by applications. So the best chance of having what we call a clean application, where you're less likely to have hiccups, will help you get paid out quickly, is one where applicants can apply online. So, that would require access to a computer and not a smartphone, like an actual computer where you can sit down and apply. And where applicants can put lack of work as the reason for their application. And people who need help applying for unemployment compensation can contact Philadelphia Legal Assistance's hotline. Their number is right here in the slide. It's 215-999-6910. And they're available Monday through Friday, and you can check the hours there. So Monday is 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tuesday is 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday is 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday is 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And Friday we have 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And for people who have exhausted unemployment compensation, which is typically 26 weeks, they may also be eligible for an additional 13 weeks of benefits under the Pandemic and Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program. So in total, they could be eligible for up to 39 weeks of benefits for their loss in income. Next slide. So the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program is a new program that's being built from scratch. And with anything that's being built from scratch, often there may be glitches and it can be confusing to navigate, but it is much more expansive regarding eligibility than the traditional UC program, which I spoke about before, which requires a significant work history and different things regarding, self-certification. So the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance is much more expansive when it comes to those type of things and can still be a lot of money for clients. Now, regarding this expanded eligibility, this can apply to 1099 workers. So that's people who are in our gig economy, who are self-employed and may work for exempt religious organizations. And so PUA is going to be great for people who fall within that category. What's most relevant for young people is that it applies to people who do not have a significant work history or recent work history, but have lost work due to the pandemic. And it applied to people who do not have any work history, but may have had a job offer rescinded or they can't start their job because of this pandemic. This is also helpful for people who may be in the AmeriCorps programs that have had to get shut down. So if there's an individual who may have been participating in the Peace Corps and the AmeriCorps who do not qualify for the regular unemployment, but their volunteer site was shut down as a direct result of COVID, and they've suffered a loss of income, this can apply to them. And we're also thinking about high school and college students who have lost any amount of work due to the pandemic. This type of assistance will be helpful for them. And again, we do recommend that people reach out to Community Legal Services to come in for an intake if any of this sounds like something that pertains to a young person in your life, or if you're a young person on the call. Now, the minimum payment under the pandemic unemployment assistance is $195 per week, plus an extra $600 through the end of July. But if people apply with no documentation, they will be set at this minimum payment of $195 per week plus the $600. But if people have lost a significant amount of wages and they are able to upload documentation of that loss, they may be eligible for more, for more than the minimum payment. And claims are backdated to when the work was lost. And people must file weekly filings to certify their continuing eligibility. And we do understand that, folks are experiencing delays in actually receiving the money, but it is important to continue to file your certifications. So we want to note that. And we have a link here, a website link folks can go to, ucpa.gov, for unemployment benefits and how to file for PUA. And Philadelphia Legal Assistance has a hotline, which will eventually be able to help with the pandemic unemployment applications. But for now, folks can come to Community Legal Services for help. And now Liz Sultan is going to talk to you all about the Emergency Assistance Program.
Thank you, Tracy. My name is Liz, and I'm going to talk about some benefits programs available through the County Assistance Office that might be helpful sources of income during this time. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great, thank you. So I'm going to start with the Emergency Assistance Program. This program is a good fit for people who lost work due to COVID-19 and are waiting for pandemic unemployment assistance or unemployment compensation benefits to come in, since that can take some time. There are 2 links here for how to apply. Again, unfortunately, this program is easiest to apply for if you're able to do so via a computer rather than a smartphone. If you apply via a computer, you can use the first link to go directly to the part of the site that has the application, which is really short. It's just a few questions. If you apply on a smartphone, you'll get something will come up for EAP that tells you to scroll to the bottom of the site on your phone, and then you have to click the link at the bottom of the page to get to the application. So it's not the most user-friendly that way. You can also reach a local Benefili site through the link here. There's a list of phone numbers to get help with the application. So what this is a one-time cash grant It's higher than the normal cash assistance grant. So it's the equivalent of 2 months of a normal cash assistance grant that you get in one payment. You have to have a child that you're living with or be pregnant. If you as a young person are living with your parents or caretaker, you can still apply. This program is limited to people who were working as of March 11th and lost at least 50% of their income due to COVID. There are income and savings limits, but they're not nearly as low as they are for the normal cash assistance program. So this might be a good fit for you if someone in your household still has some income, or if you have some savings that makes you ineligible for ongoing cash assistance, you might consider the emergency assistance program. And I really want to highlight this. This program goes until June 12th, so apply right away if you think you might be eligible. It's a really good resource. The documentation requirements are not difficult. The county assistance office is supposed to take your word for it for your statements on the application. But if you do have documentation showing that you lost work, you can upload that with your application, and that helps ensure that it's handled more quickly and gives you a better likelihood of success. We've been told that the county assistance offices are trying to process these applications in 10 to 15 days to get people their benefits quickly, and no interview is required to get emergency assistance. So another source of income that you might consider, which will be available even after June 12th, when the emergency assistance program ends, is the TANF diversion program. And this is a source of income also for people who have a recent work history. You have to have been working or in a job training program in the past 180 days, so about 6 months. You can also apply online via Compass or call a Benephily site to get help. So in Compass, you can write in the comments section that you want to be considered for diversion. This is also a one-time cash grant. So it gives you up to 3 months of the cash assistance amount, so 1 to 3 months. And the application is a little more involved than the application for emergency assistance and might not move as quickly. The requirements as far as being someone who's parenting or pregnant are the same. Again, even if you're living with your own parents or a caretaker, you can still apply. But the income limits are stricter than they are for the emergency assistance program. So if you were working recently, but you weren't working on March 11th, this is something to consider. Another aspect of this program is that you will have to do an interview with a caseworker, so it's a little bit more in depth and takes potentially takes longer to be processed. So I want everyone to keep that in mind. So the next source of income support is traditional TANF. So that's temporary assistance for needy families. It's an ongoing monthly cash grant. You can apply on Compass or again by calling a local Benephily site. Unfortunately, the benefit amounts are way too low. They're just $403 for a family of 3. We really want them to be higher, but that's what they are now. And that is also the ceiling of what your income can be to be eligible. So if you have 2 children, for instance, and you're going to be a household of 3 applying, your income can't be above $403. This is an option if you're going to need cash support each month. And if you don't have a recent work history, so you're not eligible for the other programs we mentioned, this is a good option for you. There are child support cooperation requirements and work requirements, but the work requirements aren't currently being enforced the way they normally are. You also can't have savings above $1,000. When it comes to child support cooperation, I know a lot of people might be nervous about applying for that reason, or that might be a reason that people don't apply. We want to make sure that everyone knows that if it's not safe for you to pursue child support against the other parent, that you can get an exception to that requirement, or if you have other good reasons not to apply, not to seek child support cooperation. So if you are in a situation where you're not sure what your best option is, or if you've been denied for one of these benefits, or you are getting one of these benefits and were cut off, we really encourage you to reach out to CLS's intake for help. We're really here to help with issues like that and to support you. Okay, a few more benefits left. So this is not SNAP, as I'm sure many of you know, is not exactly a cash benefit, and that it has to be used for food, but we thought we would mention this as another source of support that's available. So this is an ongoing monthly grant for food costs. The income limits are higher, and you can get up to $509 for a family of 3. And right now we know that at least in May and June, that everyone is going to be receiving the maximum amount for their household. So if you are already getting SNAP, but you are getting lower than the maximum, you'll see some extra SNAP showing up on your card. If one thing to keep in mind for young people is that if you're under 22 and you're living with your parent, unfortunately, you can't have your own SNAP budget. You have to be included as part of your parent's SNAP household, even if you don't buy or cook food together. But if you're over 22, then you can get your own budget. I'm not sure if everyone can hear the storm in the background, so I'm going to try to speak up a little bit. But so also one thing to note for people who are parents, hopefully most people have already gotten pandemic EBT, which is to replace school lunch for kids who are getting free lunches at school, and that includes all kids at public and charter schools in Philly. So it's about $370 that automatically is loaded onto your access card if you're already getting SNAP. So there's no action you need to take. If you're not getting SNAP, cards are going to be mailed out with this, debit cards are going to be mailed out with this benefit on them. So make sure the school district has your correct address. That should be happening in June. So if you were already getting SNAP and you haven't seen this benefit show up on your card yet, it might be a good idea to call CLS. If you're not getting SNAP and you're waiting for a card in the mail, again, if it starts to be, a couple weeks from now, I would encourage you to reach out to CLS for help. And now I'm gonna turn it over to Bridget to talk about connecting to our resources. And Bridget, did your power go out?
My power did not go out. It is just quite dark in the house. But a big thank you to all of our attorneys on the call today. We know this is so much information and it's changing every day. And so we're doing a lot of work to keep up with it. And what I want to make sure that young people that are watching this know is if you didn't catch everything in this presentation, if you are still confused, if you don't understand some of the language used,
I don't know if anyone else in the city is hearing this absolute storm that's going on right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's infecting internet connection at this point. So please bear with us. There's a lacking if you can't hear us.
Am I back?
You
You're
seem to be
back.
Back. Okay. All right. Oh, what's going on? So quickly, before hopefully that happens again, you can reach us through the CLS hotline. But we also have a virtual intake link. It's this bit.ly/YJP intake. That's a Google form you can access from your phone. You can just simply write your phone number and your name if you want to call back. There's also a space to give us a description of what kind of legal assistance you're looking for. And I'm happy for folks that are just struggling financially right now, are unsure which program they might be eligible for, to just have a conversation about these programs and to even go through like program by program to make sure that the benefit and the cash assistance that you're owed is coming to you and that you have support applying for it, are comfortable with weekly certifications. And so just to make it really clear that we are here and to reach out to us. Do we have any questions from folks? Now would be the time to add them in the chat box on the Facebook. Maybe we'll stay on for a little while. I see there are no questions right now, but want to give people time to respond if they've got any questions. It is really pouring outside.
Sorry, you guys are being inundated by rain. One thing that I'll just add to everything that's been said is that we're not, there's a lot changing, like people have said, and we're not sure how long certain of these benefits are going to last. So, for example, the extra $600 that you get every week with your either UC or PUA claim, right now that only goes through the end of July, and it's not clear that that's going to get extended. But the good thing is, especially with the PUA program, the pandemic program, is that as long as you file and you put when you lost your job, you can still get all of those back weeks and benefits. So even if you apply now or 2 weeks from now, as long as you put in when you lost your work, you'll still get all of those benefits for the weeks you missed. So that's really important to know in case, this feels like an overwhelming moment and you're like, oh, I can't deal with applying today. You can apply next week, the week after that, and still be able to get all of those back benefits. So that's really, really great. What's the other? I forgot the other thing I was going to say about that. Just do think about applying to that, especially if you think you're going to be eligible for the PUA program in particular, because that can be a lot of resources. Oh, what I was going to say is we've just been hearing from clients who have been able to make their way through that program, and because of all the back weeks of benefits, they're getting checks for $4,000 or $5,000 in the mail, which right now is of course, really, really helpful for people who are struggling and don't have work. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize that it's not too late to apply to that. And even if you can't deal with it this week, we just still encourage you to think about applying later.
It appears we still do not have any questions. I see Tanya walks on, said no questions at this time, but thank you for this information. Thank you for watching, Tanya. We appreciate your viewership and for sharing this information.
One other thing I just want to highlight is for those of you who are watching this presentation and might have friends or family members who have limited English proficiency, the unemployment compensation website, unfortunately, is only available online in English and Spanish. So we really encourage people who speak other languages to contact Philadelphia Legal Assistance's hotline to get help with unemployment compensation applications, because they have volunteers who speak a number of different languages and can connect people with interpretation help as well. So keep that number in mind as a resource.
Okay, well, we're not really seeing other questions coming in at this moment, so hopefully that means that all the information was really clear. But if people do have questions after today, or if people are watching this after the fact and weren't able to join us live, definitely please reach out to us with questions or concerns. I'll also just note that the UC programs now have email addresses and phone numbers for both programs that you can call. They're not always the easiest to get through to, but we have been starting to hear that people are successful in being able to contact UC. So you can always try that first. And if you're still not able to get through, or you're having some kind of confusing response that you don't understand, definitely please reach out to CLS. And just as a reminder, our intake line is 215-981-3700, and you can leave a message for the employment unit. So thank you again for joining us today or for watching this video. We hope you're able to connect with the resources you need, and we're thinking of everyone and hoping everyone's staying safe during this time. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye, thank you.